if you can reclaim multiple hours per week of your time, reduce overhead costs, and also provide your clients with a superior customer experience, embracing AI in your law practice can make this reality, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Welcome to the Optimized Law Firm, where we help attorneys build a more profitable and enjoyable law firm. In today's episode, we're going to focus on why attorneys need to invest in AI now, the game-changing tools that are shaping the market, and how you can use AI to generate real, tangible profits for your practice. So let's dive right into it. And this is a topic that has, you basically can't go anywhere without hearing about it, without having AI added to some part of the commercial, part of your daily life now. Everything is AI. We've added new AI functionality, yada, yada, yada. So I'm sure you've heard a lot about it, but maybe you're not actually implementing anything with it yet. And this is how I was for a little while, right? So I heard about ChatGPT when it first came out, and I didn't really do anything with it. I kind of just saw it as a novelty and like, yeah, that is extremely impressive, but how am I going to use this, right? Like what can I actually do? And so some of the first things we tried or thought about were not very successful. And so it kind of put me off. And so I think this is where a lot of law firm owners are at the moment, in terms of, they understand that, it's a powerful thing, but they just don't have real good applications for it. And so I'm going to try to go through some of that, kind of my own journey with AI, and bring you some of the things that I think can be, that are pretty practical and applicable to the average law firm owner, going from a solo up to, 10 attorneys. So let's get into it. The first part of this podcast that I want to discuss is going to be about, why I believe this, and why I believe that right now is a critical kind of inflection point. And you as a law firm owner need to really start diving in and investing your energy into AI. So the core reason behind this is that my belief is that market adoption of AI technology is going to dramatically rise over the next year, and then every other year in the future. And so I would liken the situation right now to where the internet was right when it started. It's kind of this big, powerful thing. Everybody understands that, this could change the world, is changing the world, but, you couldn't really have expected or understood that, your refrigerator was going to be plugged into the internet, and, it could be sending your grocery list to the app that sends the deliveries, and all sorts of, kind of crazy applications that were probably not even, fathomable at that time. And I think that's exactly where we are with AI. It's still relatively unknown. A lot of people are using it, and you see it everywhere. But I think in terms of real adoption on a daily basis, I think the majority of Americans and people in the world are not actually using it. I think it's still very small number of people, but I think this is going to change, and I think it's going to really change dramatically and quickly. One of the big components of this, why I believe this, is that the really big players in the technology world are starting to roll this out in ubiquitous ways. They're starting to do deep integrations with their products and tools, and that is going to take this kind of frontier technology that only tech savvy people are who are out there utilizing it early on are taking advantage of it and using it in the day-to-day operations. It's going to open it up for mass adoption. So people like Microsoft, Google, OpenAI, Apple, and Meta all are making AI technology much more accessible to the general public. And so each of these companies has has a kind of a different play on it, but they're all planning or are in the process of trying to roll this out to their entire ecosystem of users. With Microsoft, you have a product called Copilot. Google has Gemini. The Apple Intelligence is about to launch and be more widespread with deep utilization with the iPhone. And then you have Meta AI Assistant. And then you have kind of the big player in the AI space, which is OpenAI. And so, yes, there are lots of other applications, but for the sake of this podcast, I'm going to keep it kind of streamlined with the people who are making the biggest waves, right? And so OpenAI not only has ChatGPT, they've got a whole API, so you can take their technology, you come up with an idea, and you can use that in your software. But one of the biggest potential changes, that's going to be out there is that they've launched their own search engine. So for the first time, I think there is a legitimate threat potentially to Google. And so with all of these technologies coming in and using AI, people who have not adopted it, don't really care about it, don't see the application, are going to immediately be integrated with this. And they're going, when they get their new iPhone, it's going to have it on there, right? And Apple is going to be heavily invested in getting you to use it because they want more time on the iPhone. And so, a couple of interesting examples I've seen this play out in real time, just anecdotally from within my life, is that I showed this to a relative who is a farmer, and they, had worked in government, fairly, very smart person, but now work on a farm. And so I told them about this, and so they gave me kind of a real head scratching stumper of a question that there was just no way that they could get this regarding commodity pricing for wheat, what it was going to be, and it answered it really, really well. And so a week later, I'm getting asked, hey, how do I get my own ChatGPT app? Like, do I have to sign up for all that stuff? And so the interest, even though it's just an anecdote, there's people are going to adopt this and utilize this at mass scale. It just is, once it kind of gets into the places where they spend their time, that's when it's really going to take off. And so we're already starting to see, people, some people, not a lot, but some people, finding lawyers and being, going to search GPT and getting information from there. So it is happening right now. And I would suggest, just across all this stuff, that it's much better to start paying attention now, start really spending a little bit of time than, because I think this is going to really dominate business for the next, however many years. So, all right. So we know that, the market conditions are changing. There's also a huge change that is directly meaningful for lawyers and law firms, and that is going to be the impact this has on search. So, there's all this stuff going on, may not necessarily impact you directly as a law firm owner, but one of the things that will impact you directly is how people are finding lawyers. Okay, so if we go back, think about this like when everybody relied on Yellow Pages to advertise, and that was basically the only option out there, billboards and stuff like that, print advertising. And then came along the internet, right? And the people who became really wealthy over the next however many years were those people who were early adopters, and they understood that over time, fewer and fewer people are going to use a book, a paper book, to get their information, and that there was this better way out there to access information. And so I think there's a debate to be had about will these specific like search GPTs, alternative search engines, will they really overtake, let's say, a simple, an old school search engine like Google? I think that remains to be debated or seen, and so I don't think there's a hard, I don't think it's necessarily true that it's inevitable and that it's this behavior is going to shift immediately. But let me talk about a few of the changes I see that lead me to believe this is, there is going to be fluctuation in the way people find lawyers. And you, as a firm owner, have to prepare for this, because if you have spent all the last 5-10 years, grooming your website to really fit Google's algorithm, because for all intents and purposes, there are no other search engines that really come close, and so you're working to get position on Google. If that starts to change, then who knows what is going to drive the selections that a ChatGPT will make, or a tool like Perplexity. We have no idea at this point how their algorithm is driving, or how the AI technology will work compared to the way we know it with Google. And so even though we don't know all of those search signals, we don't know exactly how Google works. We have years of trial and error with it. And so we're much better at knowing what needs to happen for you to get position on Google. It's been a reliable source of search traffic. A lot of people make a lot of money with it, right? And so if some of these changes are happening, well, what's going to happen with average person and with how they find a lawyer? That remains to be seen. And so understanding this and keeping an eye on it is incredibly important. So let's go through a couple of the changes that are happening right now. So I would say one of the biggest ones that we're seeing and tracking very, very closely is with Google. It's the biggest player by far. Even though you have some of these other options like Search GPT and Perplexity, it's they're not anywhere close to the level of adoption. Now, there's some anecdotal statistics that talk about how maybe they're losing market share, or maybe more people are using these alternatives, but it's still not super significant. And I think you could debate it a couple ways, but as of now, Google has launched their Gemini product. Where you're probably seeing it most and where we see the biggest impact on lawyers right now are Google AI overviews. And so you're probably familiar with them. You ask a question. Most often they are coming up in information-based queries. And so that would be different than a query focused on getting a service or selecting a service. And so I'll give you an example. Somebody who searches family lawyer Tuscaloosa likely is going to get a list of attorneys. You're going to see the map pack. You're going to see, you may not get likely not going to get a AI overview. Now, if that same person were to search, what are my options for divorce in Alabama? You're now going to have a high probability that you will see an AI overview. And what it's going to do is more or less collect some of the top results, summarize them, kind of, roughly fact check them against each other. And it's going to extract all of that information and put it up on the, on the screen so the person can get their question answered really quickly. So it reminds me of when featured snippets started rolling out, and it was kind of, I don't know, good and bad, because if somebody asked a question, then you could kind of get the answer directly in the result. And so it's that's helpful. But from a content production or content producer point of view, kind of sucks, because then it's, they're basically taking out the best part or the answer and more or less, removing you from the equation, right? So tough to say exactly how this will shake out, but I see a lot of similarities between those. Google is still the number one choice by far. According to the latest estimates, 75% of all search traffic is going to go through Google. But we're starting to maybe see some chips in that armor. there's two factors driving that, or that I think are maybe reducing the market domination of Google. Number one, ChatGPT, SearchGPT is up to 8% of market saturation in terms of people going to GPT to get questions answered. And that is up from 1% just a few months ago. So, 8% is not an enormous amount, but what we're tracking, or what we think is more significant, is that quick turn, right, in the market, where it was 1%, kind of this extremely underutilized thing, not really of any significance, and now it's up to 8%. So, and pretty quickly, right? And so, as soon as these deeper integrations really play out into all of your phones, all of your smart devices at home, your work, your email, there's just the more that these integrations get rolled out, the more you're going to see, I think, this shift happen. And so it's really, in a lot of ways, a gold rush right now to see who can kind of get out there first. So, final point on Google, and kind of why I think now, there is a legitimate chance that their dominance will be disrupted, is that regulators have been cracking down on Google as a monopoly. They've been involved in some litigation over the past few years, and it's been largely negative in terms of the findings. And so there's going to be pressure at some point for Google to kind of decouple their offerings, or it's going to maybe limit some of the things that they want to do in terms of moving or advertising one part of their business to another, and how they integrate the AI, the Gemini products across their ecosystem and things like that. So just more pressure. And I think now with ChatGPT, it's or SearchGPT and ChatGPT, they are, it's unique. It's a different situation, right? And my thought on the whole matter is that ultimately people are, generally lazy, or maybe harsh, but, including myself, right? Like, I'm looking for, the best answer, fastest, right? And so if I can go to a place where I can reliably get my answer, and it's maybe even more customized to, what it knows about me and what I look for in answers and stuff like that, which is totally feasible with AI, am I more likely to just ask that to, Search GPT instead of Google, where I have to maybe go kind of do my own research? I think it's very plausible, right? So these other hurdles of adoption and, introduction are going to have to happen, but I think it's very feasible. So last points on here are just that, if you're not familiar with Search GPT, I probably should have covered this at the beginning, or Perplexity. These are two alternatives to Google. Search GPT is, an AI-powered search engine. Basically, it gives you kind of the strength of a traditional search engine, but it gives you these advanced conversational abilities of these large language models like GPT, right? Or what they have over at OpenAI. Perplexity is, it's going to allow you to ask any question, and it's going to it searches the internet to give you an accessible, conversational, and verifiable answer. And so I like Perplexity a lot because it, unlike Search GPT, which has in the past been capable of these hallucinations where you ask it a question and it just kind of makes BS up. Perplexity is really grounded in giving answers, but putting sources in the back pocket with it. So it's a pretty cool thing that could be a lot of applications for research, for fact checking, just lots of cool stuff going on in there. So those are, I would say, the biggest kind of players in that space that have a potential. But I think it would be Search GPT. I mean, but I saw a Perplexity ad with Jim Harbaugh the other day, from the Chargers. So they're putting money into it, and we'll kind of see where it goes. But I think Search GPT is probably the best position to actually start making a dent in Google's market share. Okay, so let's talk about some of the profit generating opportunities, and then I'm going to end with a real world example of how we did this and we're able to save $10,000 a month in labor costs. So I like to make these all practical, and I'm going to make a guide available about 20 routine legal tasks that can be automated with AI. So I think the hardest part about getting started with AI is asking yourself, like, where do I start? What do I do, right? You have this powerful tool, but that was my problem with it from the beginning was, I might put in like, hey, write me this article, marketing article, and then I, look at it and say, it's not that great, right? This isn't how I would do it. So yeah, must not be ready yet, right? And then the key to what I learned over time was that the more you treat it like a conversational tool and an assistant, and kind of work it through the conditions of what you want to use to make it get you the final product that you want. It becomes this amazing tool, this amazing co-pilot to create work and do it more efficient, do it, bring things in that maybe you didn't think of. So what I would encourage you to do is start with a routine task that takes your time, but does not necessarily require critical thinking. Okay. And so for right now, this is, I believe, the best way to utilize AI. The key is to use AI as a tool and not the entire solution, right? And so we're going to give you this guide, some of the top routine legal tasks that we believe that you can automate with AI. And I think realistically, if you adopt even a couple of these, you're going to be able to save thousands of dollars a month. And it's not hyperbole. I think you can do this. So what are those? I'm going to go kind of lightning round style to get through some of these pretty quickly. So we have the full list of 20 in the download. If you want to get that, I'm just going to go through a few right here. So number one, summarizing legal documents. So the task would be creating briefs or summaries of lengthy documents for a case or a matter that you're researching. And the AI solution for this would be that you're going to utilize AI summarization tools that will basically take this long document and distill the text down into key points and essential information. Second is going to be proofreading and error checking. So the task is, you're reviewing documents for grammatical errors, inconsistencies from junior associates, from other people in your office, and instead you can implement a AI proofreading, prompt that is going to go through, scan for errors, and you can actually give it, customized feedback or customized inputs so that it, really pays attention to making it conversational, or the opposite, and it's super professional because it needs to, you're maybe going to put this in front of a lawyer or for another, judge or whatever. You can dial it up to make it real specific to what you want. Next one, legal research. So tasks can be finding relevant case law, statutes, legal precedents. I would, potentially look into some of the more purpose-built AI tools around this. There's some AI tools that are going to focus on case law that, basically these AI tools are only as good as their index or their LLM, the information that goes into them. And so with these, they're going to put all of the case text in there. And so really the secret sauce with all these AI tools is then its ability to recall information from these large data sets or large swaths of information. And so from there, you can utilize these AI-driven research platforms to say, sift through vast legal databases and provide you with the most pertinent information and summaries. You can use it to rank the most applicable case law. You can go look for all cases that meet certain criteria that is not binary. So I want to see all cases that have these three components. Those are the type of reasoning and high level kind of thinking that would take you hours and hours to do, but can now be automated. Fourth, general standard correspondence. So the task would be writing routine letters and emails. Okay, so you know, early on, there have been some examples of different situations at court where people have been outed for using GPT to write their briefs and stuff like that. Right now it's just not at that level where you can have confidence that it could do something like that. So you want to think about all of this as, can it get me like 80% there? And so if that and know that it's not ready for court, what else can you use it for, right? And so I think writing letters, correspondence, things that don't actually go to a judge and are not going to be part of an official record, is a really low barrier way to enter this and take advantage of this. And it's a really low threshold for potentially messing things up, right? The risk level is much lower. That's what I'm looking for to say, right? And so you could use AI, you can use ChatGPT to help you basically be an assistant that generates drafts of emails, of demand letters, and instead of kind of carrying a template that you have to go in and update each field, and go through this specific workflow, you can actually load your documents in and then just give it the new information and say, hey, I want you to, reference this template. That's my demand letter template. And here's the new information. And you just, kind of write it out in a conversational way, and it's going to go and plug it all in, right? And so think about how much time you spend on a daily basis doing, these kind of like mundane, but, critical tasks, right? And it's, these are the best opportunities right now to take advantage of this. And so the final one is drafting with templates. So you can create standard, this is kind of a piggyback on the last one, but I guess they're a little bit the same, but you can create standard legal documents like contracts, NDAs, wills. So this is more kind of, for me, built like into the workflow, like the legal workflows. So think about any repeatable thing that you do, right, that you are giving to an assistant, a paralegal, et cetera, where, there's a kind of proven blueprint roadmap that they need to follow, but they need to use some level of critical thinking to go and grab information and bring it back in, and update that document or prepare that document a certain way by, collating multiple data sources. You can do all of this now with AI. I mean, it takes some time. It takes your energy to kind of put this into a framework, like a custom GPT or something like that, where you can add material in and then call it back, reference it, utilize it. But I mean, think about the advantages of this, right? Think about, if you can automate some of this, I mean, without sounding too callous, you can eliminate people, from your operation, right? And so the way I like to think about it is that this is going to, not necessarily remove people from your office, but you can start to think about, making them more efficient, right? And giving them other opportunities to improve your business that AI can't really do just yet. Okay. And so I think it's not, just a total, a total, or the whole point of it is not just to cut people out, but I think it can give them a greater capacity to do more work easier. It can, take away some of the most unfun, mundane things that, that maybe they have to do. And then for me, what I like a lot about this whole setup is that you can get a better quality of product from this. Okay. You can get a more standardized product. And if you've ever managed people and you're building SOPs and trying to, manage the level of quality and the client experience, it's super challenging because, it's just inherently difficult to manage people. And so this is one of the best ways to do it. So let me take you through a real world example to kind of finish this up, put a bow on it. We wanted to expand our email marketing program. So we're talking about emailing our clients, so like newsletters, kind of individual emails about maybe it's birthdays, maybe, we're talking about specific holidays that those people celebrate, other kind of pop-up email stuff like that, right? So we were planning to send more emails to our audience. Me as the business owner, here are the steps I took, right? I put out a job on Upwork. I reached out to friends for references, and so this is all going from the idea that, like, okay, I'm gonna go find an email writer who's gonna do this, right? Had calls, put out test projects. I reviewed them. I looked at consultants. I looked at services. I did kind of went into this whole review, right? This probably took me about 8 hours. And while I was doing this and waiting for interviews to come back, I thought to myself, what if I could just build a GPT, a custom GPT that would do this for me? And so I spent 4 hours building a custom GPT, and I basically just took a handful of examples of what I think are good emails. So I'm giving it context and showing it exactly what I have in mind. And I've learned that with these AI tools, the more that you can show them in terms of examples, the better off you are, because it picks up on the similarities between these things, right? And so on top of that, I'm also adding some instructions or a prompt. And then from that, I'm basically training it to be a great writer, because I could write emails, but it takes me a long time, right? It takes me a while to kind of brainstorm. It takes, I have to go through it. I have to proofread it. I have to do that stuff. Instead of that, I'm having this bot now create them, and it takes a little, a bit of iteration, and you adjust your prompts until you get it. But after 4 hours, I had a very good tool that I can reliably use now, and it's cut out the need to have a writer. It's cut out the need for me to manage another person, and we get this really good, grammatically correct, error-free email that coming out, and then we can scale that significantly, because we can do 100 of these in a day. We don't have to wait for one individual writer and for it to go through the management process, be proofread, all of that stuff. So it's an enormous opportunity for it. And so, before the writing search was over for this, I'd already written 4 emails for October. They're great quality. I got immediate results. So now, I'm doing this in September. I've already got October covered. And then I saved probably $600. So if you kind of map this out about, what the going rate is for a copywriter, about $150 per email, just 4 emails is going to be $600. And so, I want to do this. I want to increase the amount of email we send on our own marketing side. And so the advantages of using that AI in this situation is, number one, the cost. I want to send at least, let's just say, 16 emails per month. That would cost me $28,000 per year if I went the normal route and paid people to do this. So I get to keep that off my books, but still have a great production quality and dramatically increase the number of emails that are going out. Number 2, speed. I can do all this in a fraction of the time, right? And by myself if I wanted to. And even factoring in the trial and error, the frustration of, oh, that's not the output I want. I don't really like that, that output. I need to tweak this and that. You're still coming out way ahead. Okay. You're going to be coming out way ahead, not only in the short term, but in the long term as well. The third advantage of this is focus. Right? So I can create multiple emails at once and then focus on something else. I do not have to create a monthly workflow to have the writer do it, come up with ideas, give the writer ideas, have it come back, review what they did, send suggestions, have it come back, and go through this kind of laborious process. I can, because of the speed factor, I was able to write 4 emails in like 20 minutes. And so now I can put that thing that was going to take me, probably a week or 2 weeks to kind of get it all together. and write all these emails, in between my normal work. Now I did it all in 20 minutes, right? And so now I can move on to another bigger opportunity within my business. So think about those ways, because those opportunities exist for you too. Next to last piece is the quality component. So AI can be trained. You can give it these examples and it's going to be better than any single human. You can argue that you're losing something. There are some advantages of maybe having a human do the copywriting or, different scenarios. And I get that. But ultimately, people are error prone. They're subject to mistakes. And an AI can be too, but it's a machine, and it's significantly better at producing work that is going to be dramatically reduced in terms of errors than a human. And the scale is you just can't compete with humans, because this can be done being run 24 hours a day. The quality is a big factor of why we're trying to move a lot of our operations into AI, and using AI as a co-pilot to check our work, to do all this stuff, because ultimately, just like you in your business, it depends on your reputation is all about providing a good experience to clients, and it's the same with us. And so we don't want to ever have bad reputation with clients. We think by doing great work, that's one of the key ways to do this. And so this is just a huge beneficial tool for us, so that it reduces a lot of that fear and anxiety about what level of quality of the product is going out. The final piece of this, and this is I'm going to wrap it all up. Following this for this episode, is energy and frustration is significantly reduced with AI. So managing people is super hard. It's easily the hardest part of the business I run. It's been the biggest transition for me, going from kind of solo operator where I did a lot of the stuff. I really had my hands in everything, and I could kind of control everything. But as we've grown and added more people, you have to start bringing in other people to manage various aspects of your business, and that's super hard. And that's why we as business owners often end up doing a lot of this ourselves, because we want the end product to be amazing, and we want to guarantee the outcome that it's to our standard, right? Using AI and building it into your processes and using it kind of as this co-pilot, it allows you to bypass all of that entirely in a lot of ways, and you can generate consistent, reliable results, and you don't have that frustration or just energy loss of having to go back in and check people's work and fix things and and do all of that, right? And so think of this as like your co-pilot that you can instill in your workflows your idea of what's good, your idea of when something is actually done and done correctly, right? And so by doing that, you just can eliminate so much energy and frustration going into developing that. So I think that's been along with the monetary component, the biggest impact that we've seen in our business. Some of the things I talked about, I would recommend just going and signing up for a free ChatGPT account. If you've not started, that's like a concrete step you can do today, totally free. You can go in there, start playing around. And kind of going back to a point I made, just start with some like super routine tasks, right? What is one task that you do every month or every week that takes time but doesn't require a lot of critical thinking? Okay, start with that. Okay, and start figuring out how you can leverage AI to do that. If you ever want to, have questions about this or want to talk through a scenario, I love talking about this. Happy to. Send me an email and Patrick at goconstellation.com, and I'll be happy to reply and talk your ear off about this stuff and give you some suggestions. So that's it for this episode of the Optimized Law Firm podcast. Thank you so much for your time. I know you have tons of options with who you listen to get your information about marketing. And if you ever need help, we would love to support you. So thanks. Have a great day.